Hi guys, and welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. Today, guys, somehow I have been unconsciously playing a game where I try to see how long into the month I can wait before doing the wrap-up from the previous month. I don't know what happened. It got lost, it got buried, and uncovered by settlers as the treasure of the Sierra Madre. And that is where my wrap-up came from. It is currently, or by the time I post this, it will be the 25th of May, where I'm talking about the books I read in April. Oh man, guys, May, freaking testing, AP testing, and state testing, and end of course testing, and children. And you know, once AP tests are done, the AP teachers don't do anything. So once their AP test is done, at the beginning of freaking May, the AP teachers don't do anything. So my students, they go to these classes where they just sit there, they don't do anything. Meanwhile, they come to my class and I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Bell rang. Why are y'all standing up? What are y'all doing? Guys, Walker is that teacher guys, I taught today. It's exam week. It's the last week of school and I taught today because that's who I am. Despised by the student body is Walker. But you know what? Y'all gonna learn something. So anyway, it's just a mess. May was a mess. My new medicine makes me so tired. I take like a 2-hour nap every day. Whatever. Enough of the excuse machine. It's a late wrap-up that no one realized wasn't there. Surprise! So, I'm going to talk about the books that I read in April. I only read 4. I read like 4 and a third, maybe. But I read most of Well of Ascension in May, so I'm going to put that on my May wrap-up, which who knows? My May wrap-up may be in August. But I'm going to put that on there. So I did read a good chunk of Well of Ascension in April, but I'm not going to count. So I only read 4 books, which came out to about 1,900 pages, which is my worst this year so far, I think. They were mostly good. I had one 2.5-star book, one 4.5-star book, and then 2 5-star books. So without wasting any more time, let's get down to business. Let's go ahead and get into the books that I read in April, as well as the stuff that I watched and the games I was playing. But let's go ahead and start with the 2.5-star book. So this is Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. So I read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I really enjoyed it. It's a little longer than this. This one was only about 300 and some odd pages, and it didn't take long to read at all. One thing I really love about du Maurier is her prose. Her prose, it feels very classic without being dense. She's an extremely descriptive writer, which I think hindered this book because of the setting. The setting is the moors. It's the moors of, I think, North England, South England. It's the moors somewhere in England. Guys, the moors are boring. They're a drag. The Moors are one of the main characters. This is about a young woman named Mary Yellen, whose mom dies and she is sent to live with her aunt and her uncle. I mean, there's not, like, the plot, like, it's supposed, like, Rebecca was a mystery, and you're like, what's going on? This, I thought it was going to be something similar, but every time a mystery is introduced, like, 2 pages later, it solves the mystery for you, and I'm like, oh. Okay, was that supposed to be like a big surprise? Like, was that the twist? Is that the reveal? I mean, okay, I guess. And it's just like, Mary is a great character. The protagonist of this book is fantastic. So I do like Mary, but every other character, her uncle, her aunt, her uncle's brother, just all the worst. And it's just a lot of being on the moors and, you know, drunken reprobates hanging out at the Jamaica Inn. And we're supposed to be horrified by things that aren't, like, super horrifying, I guess, in 2021. We're kind of inured to the violence that's in this. Now, the description of the moors feels very like, I mean, there is kind of a horror of the unknown, fear of the unknown element in this book. And at times it's really creepy, especially in the resolution of this. In the last 50 pages of this book, I felt like I shifted from du Maurier into a Lovecraft novel. Like, just the kind of existential dread and like, if you've read Lovecraft, you know this just kind of like suspenseful dread. It just got super spooky, like all of a sudden. And those 50 pages made the book worth it. They're what raised it from a 2 to a 2.5. Like, it was a half star alone just for those last 50 pages, because I really did not particularly enjoy the book. I just thought it was boring. It's well written and it went really fast. I just thought it was boring until those last 50 pages where I'm just glued to the page. And I reread the kind of like the reveals multiple times because it was just that good when everything was like, I'm a sucker for speeches. So it was really, really good. Like, just the end was really, really good. But the rest of it, if you like Moors, and if you're more of like a setting person and just a suspenseful setting, a spooky, environment, then this would be more for you than it was for me. I read this as a buddy read with Leanna at Leanna's Library and Mara over at Books Like Woe, and they both liked it better than I did. But everyone prefers Rebecca to this book. So it was super fun. I want to read more of du Maurier's work because I really like her work. This particular one just wasn't for me, though. Probably as soon as I finish filming this wrap up, I'm probably going to check out those last 50 pages again. Just the really good part. Oh, it's good. Next, the 4.5 star book for me was Bouphe Morningstar, book 3 of the Red Rising trilogy. And we read this as a buddy read on my channel. We've been doing a Feb Rising read along. This month we were reading Iron Gold, and we're gonna have a live show. Last month we had a live show with myself, Michael, Klaus, and Adrian. It was a wonderful discussion. And this book, I think Michael likes this book the best, but we all had a similar problem with this. While this book takes Golden Sun and it just ups the ante, it's very like, there's a lot of powerful moments, there's a lot of stuff going on, a ton of like world-spanning decisions. It is a fantastic conclusion to that series. It kind of wraps things up pretty well, but Pierce Brown does something that you can't, like, he cheats. Pierce Brown, and I'm not going to spoil, but Pierce Brown cheats. He flaunts the convention that he has set up. He's flaunted the own narrative conventions that he has chosen to set up. When you write in first person, there are certain things that you can't do. You have limited yourself by choosing to tell a first person narrative. And Pierce Brown doesn't care. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. And we all thought it was super cheap and unfair, and if you've read it, you know exactly which parts we're talking about. But I did really enjoy this. I like the continued discussion about power. I like the discussion about sacrifice. I like its discussion about how fragile trust between like enemies who are, allying together is, when there are revolutions, compromises have to be made. And that's really all I can say because it's the third book. But I did enjoy this. I think I like Golden Sun the best. I think Golden Sun was a more personal story, and this is much more, there's a whole ton going on. This is like the Mass Effect 3 of the trilogy. So I like this, 4.5 stars, definitely, and I'm really enjoying Iron Gold so far. Next, my first 5-star book was Bouphe Roth, book 4, and the conclusion of The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. So I had a wonderful discussion with Patrick and Abby and Alex and Philip and the man, the myth, the legend himself, John Gwynne, joining us. And he is an incredibly, incredibly nice man who answers all of my ridiculous questions. And he was just wonderfully kind and generous with his time. We had a great time discussing it. Roth is a fantastic conclusion to this series. I can't say much about it if you haven't read the other ones, but the conclusion is epic. This ended exactly the way that we wanted it to end. It may not be like the kind of conclusion that everyone loves, but for this series, it was the absolute perfect ending. The threads were wrapped up, some of them were happy, some of them were heartbreaking. The death toll is through the frickin' roof. Can't even tell you who lives and who dies. It's many people on the death side. And it just wrapped everything up really, really well. Some people got justice. Some people got victory. The last battle was incredibly intense. And as I've said before, John Gwynne writes on-the-ground battle really, really well. It feels like there's a GoPro like on their shoulders. Like the tricks that were being pulled out, the here comes the cavalry. It was so good. It was just really, really good. And I had a blast talking with those guys about Faithful and the Fallen, and I couldn't be more pleased with Wrath. Truth and courage. If you haven't read Faithful and the Fallen, or if you haven't finished the series, read it. I know Klaus, who cares what Klaus thinks? Read the series, especially if you just like really like epic, feel good, truth and courage, justice, evil bad guys, and you know, a nice wrap up for an ending. So as always, before I get to my last book, my last 5-star book, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I've been watching and the stuff that I have been playing. So this was a pretty busy month of video games. I started with playing Samurai Warriors 4. Because I've always liked the Warriors games, and you can just go ahead and groan and be like, oh, but it's the same thing over and over again. That's fine. I've been playing Dynasty Warriors since Dynasty Warriors 2 on the PlayStation 2. And 5 was excellent. 5 was really, really good. And then of the more modern gen ones, I think it was 7 was excellent. And then 8 messed it up and made it terrible. I think 9 improved it a little bit. But Samurai Warriors for the PlayStation 2 was really fun. And Samurai Warriors 2 was even more fun. Do you know what's not fun? Samurai Warriors 4. It just removes the interesting parts of the plot. Like, it removed, like, First of all, I know a lot of people really like that there's nothing but Japanese dialogue, and that's fine. Like, the option to have that is there. The fact that there's no English dialogue sucks, because when you are playing a Warriors game where you are just like going at it and trying to focus on, it's an action game, trying to focus on what's in front of you, you can't read the English of what they're saying in the middle of the screen. They're talking in Japanese. You need to be able to hear them. I can't understand Japanese that fast, so that sucks. But really, most of all, it's just not very fun. The storylines aren't good, and this always irritates me when long-running series, they try to improve and create like new whatever, and in the next iteration, and by doing so, they take away the stuff that we liked about the previous game. I don't like Samurai Warriors 4, so I was like, I'm gonna plat this, and then I played it, and I'm like, there's nothing fun about what I'm doing. Like, it's not fun to play. It felt like it. Like, I love hacking through tons of faceless samurai, but it was not fun. It was not fun. So I quit that, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finally play Resident Evil 7 since Resident Evil 8 is coming out. And I played Resident Evil 7, and it is scary and gross.
Where am I? What the hell?
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's time for supper.
Who are all you people? Where's Mia?
Eat it.
I don't love the first person. I like Resident Evil 4 the best. It's clearly the best one. But Resident Evil 7 was good. It was fast, and and I knew I wasn't gonna platinum it, so you know what? I played on easy. Screw y'all. I'm not playing on freaking normal and getting clobbered by Jack with his dang meat hook thing in the butcher shop or whatever it was the first time I played it. It was like, no, it's too hard. Forget it. Didn't care. I play Resident Evil because of the storyline. I've been following the freaking Umbrella conspiracy since 1996 with Resident Evil 1. I remember I played Resident Evil 1 at a sleepover at Jonathan Crane, who was not really my friend, but he was friends with my friend, so I got the the pity invite. And I remember how loud every one of us screamed the first time one of them hellhounds jumped through the window in Resident Evil 1. If you are as old as me, please tell me if it also frightened you. So that didn't take long at all, so then I moved on to, yes, Michael Nip, I moved on to Assassin's Creed Rogue, where you play a Templar instead of an assassin. And it is literally a not as good Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Tonight was very rough, sir, the wind like ice did feel. He borrowed me suit of oilskins and took me trick at the wheel. That's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie, lie, lie.
It just takes place in the North Atlantic, and there's ship combat, and it's Assassin's Creed. I don't really like Shay, he's annoying, and I don't like the Templars. But we do get to see Haytham again, and I love Haytham from Assassin's Creed 3, Connor's dad. And so that was fun, and I know that, you Assassin's Creed haters, whatever. I'm finally done with Rogue and can move on to Unity eventually. But yeah, so I platinumed Rogue just in time for Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Yes, which I'll talk more about in my May wrap-up. As for things I've been watching, I have been watching this excellent anime series called Monster. And it is 74 episodes, and you can find it on YouTube, and I'm about 2/3 through with it. And it is about a Japanese doctor named Kenzo Tenma, who is an esteemed brain surgeon who works at a hospital, and his bosses, they keep putting people ahead of the guys that come in. So someone will come in, needing brain surgery, but then someone more important will come in, and his higher ups will say, no, you got to shunt that person, operate on this important person, and then the other person dies. Well, one night, this kid, the 10-year-old kid has a bullet in his head, comes in, and then the mayor of the town comes in, and his boss is like, hey, operate on the mayor. And Kenzo's like, no more. Dr. Tenma says, no more. And so he operates on the 10-year-old, and he lives. And then some people die in the hospital, and he realizes that he saved a serial killer. And so then the whole thing is like 10 years later, and he is he's had to retire in disgrace, and people think that he killed those people, and he is after this kid who is a serial killer. That's all in the first episode, first 2 episodes. Man, like what starts out as just like trying to catch a serial killer becomes this like vast conspiracy about East and West Germany and the Czechoslovakian secret police and child experimentation. Kinderheim, Goichichi Kinderheim.
Goichichi Kinderheim.
Dr. Tenma. They say it all the time. My wife always, she hears them and then she goes, Dr. Tenma.
やっと会えましたね。ドクターテンマ。
It is really, really good. If you like Criminal Minds, the TV show, and also anime, Monster is for you. It is exceptional. It is very confusing, the timelines and the memories that are revealed. I have a feeling I'm going to have to watch a video explaining it to me at the end, being like, okay, what did I miss? Because, it's like stuff that's just like, man, I can't keep all this stuff straight. But it is excellent. I am greatly enjoying it. Have any of you guys seen Monster? I've never heard anybody who has seen it. I know my brother has read part of it. And I know Sean, Elliot's husband, has read it, but I've never heard of anybody else who's seen the anime. So if you've seen that, let me know down there. So that's what I've been reading and playing. So now to my final book that I read. 5 stars, Bouphe, Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. This is book 6 in the City Watch books. And guys, I remember not liking this particularly last time I read it. I remembered wrong. This is an excellent, excellent book. And I can see why this is many people's favorite, not only watch book, but favorite Discworld book. It is very, very Vimes central. Vimes goes back in time to, that's on the dust jacket. He goes back in time to where this kind of rebellion happened, and this sergeant they remember was killed. And so you see a lot of the young Watch, you see young Nobby, you see a younger Colin, you see Vimes as a cadet where he is looking at his younger self. And the villain Carcer is just so jovially terrifying. Carcer is a great villain. Probably the best villain in the Watch books, certainly that we've seen so far. He is so freaking creepy. And just what it says about Vimes and what Vimes values about the Watch and the things that he, no longer gets to do now that he's, has all these other obligations as Commander and Duke and all these things. And watching Vimes try to mentor his younger self to make sure, and to not screw anything up timeline-wise. Parts of it that I don't like are usually like anything dealing with the time monks, like Laozi here. That's part of my problem with Thief of Time, is I don't like it when it tries to explain the time stuff. It's just a big stop and a huge info dump. And it has this here too. If I was not so partial to Guards, this would be my favorite Guards book as well. I think Guards is always going to be my favorite, but I think this is right after Guards, followed by Feet of Clay. So I think those are my new top 3. It is excellent. It is not as funny as Feet of Clay, and it's not as funny as Guards, but the character growth we see not only from Vimes, but from Vetinari even. And the stuff we learn about the history, we don't tend to learn a ton about the past of the Watch and the past of Ankh-Morpork. So that's really good. And Vimes is on point. He is at his best in this book. And, the things, his beliefs, what he stands for, and, how Vimes is gonna be Vimes. You know, he's gonna be who he is, and that's what makes him one of my favorite characters in all of fantasy. So, guys, what was your favorite book that you read in April? I know May's almost over, but what is your favorite book that you read last month? Did you even notice I hadn't dropped a wrap-up? Are you not watching my wrap-up in protest because you think it's absurd to put a wrap-up for the previous month at the end of the current month? Just let me know in the comments. As always, guys, information about my Patreon and Discord is down in the description, and I'll see you next time, guys.